Hey Thrivers, welcome to week 7. This week we're going to start a new section on mindness awareness. And more specifically, we're going to start things off with notice and naming your feelings. Then we're going to progress through looking at your environment and how it can affect your awareness and your practices and your goals. And then we're going to finish things off with how your behaviors can also affect what you're doing. So back to this week's topic, notice and name how we can build awareness and put words to our feelings. You can observe a lot by just watching. Now that's a famous quote. So what does it mean to notice and name? This practice is about, number 1, pausing when you notice sensations directing you towards an interesting path. For example, when action is feeling smooth and effortless, you pause and notice. Or when action is feeling effortful, like a struggle, you also pause and notice. Number 2, giving specific descriptors to what you're feeling. What exactly does it feel like in your body? Is there another more obvious situation that you can relate it to? How would you describe it to someone else in words? Make the implicit explicit. And number 3, continuing that practice consistently. Learning about yourself, what you like and you don't like, and eventually using heightened self-awareness to make more data-informed changes. Why and how to practice. Notice and naming is another way of saying paying attention to what's happening and specifically calling it out to yourself. Direct experience can be categorized into 3 primary types of sensations in the body: physical, thought, and emotional sensations. Noticing and naming those sensations provides your answers to meaning, understanding, ease, and clarity in the present moment. Use it as your tool when confusion is blocking your progress. Use noticing and naming to gain insight on some major and very normal questions that you may ask yourself every day. For example, why am I doing the things that seem to be contradicting my longer-term goals? Like, why am I continuing to take many spoonfuls directly out of this gooey, salty, super chunky jar of peanut butter right now? Is it really the taste? Am I really hungry? What's really happening right now? Or it could be, why is it so difficult for me to get away from the computer right now? To get outside and move my body? Is it uncomfortable? Scary? Why? Or how about, why am I not able to relax in this moment to practice a calming, de-stressing activity? Am I really too busy? Are other demands really so immediate? Is allowing myself to settle down uncomfortable for some other reasons? Or maybe simply, why do I do the things that seem to not make sense? On that last one, there's good news. Those actions do make sense, and you're not the only person who's ever asked themselves that question. Every action is an attempt to solve a problem. You may simply be confused about what exactly the problem is in that moment. Thoughts are powerful and not always true. Thoughts aren't always on duty to be providing a true and accurate description of the present moment. Instead, they're usually spinning independently, mostly out of context of the present moment, playing out stories of other times and places. For example, dreaming of the future, reminiscing of the past, and problem-solving the rest of the world's latest problems. When attention is away in those far-off lands, rather than on watch in the present moment, it's easy for the reality of the moment to be overlooked, confused, or mislabeled. With thoughts on vacation and attention off guard, it's easy to act in confusing ways. If you can catch those moments when thoughts and attention stray too far from direct experience, then you have the upper hand of the most powerful tool. You can pause. If you can pause, you can redirect. Notice where your thoughts are right now. Direct those thoughts to the reality of the moment, physical, emotional, and thought sensations. Name the reality of the sensations of the moment, rather than the stories that are separate from the direct experience. For a complete and in-depth study of the moment, name each of the primary sensations that you're experiencing. What specifically are your thought sensations, emotional sensations, physical sensations? Ultimately, emotions will most likely drive your next actions. And, importantly, Emotions rise from physical and thought sensations. If you can be clear about those precursors to emotions, you can proactively shift your emotions to drive more deliberate next actions. Words make sense. The naming step of this practice is an essential step. Putting words to the experience is the most explicit way to make sense of the experience. Words are how humans make sense of the world. Words are the way that our intellect brains convert our experience into meaning. Making sense and meaning of the situation intellectually creates relaxation and ease physically. Find the right words. In order for noticing and naming to continue working for you, those words that you choose as labels have to be true to you. The labels need to be accurately matched your direct experience. That labeling won't be easy to do, especially if you're currently pulling from a limited vocabulary. You don't have to go it alone, though. Many other people have written and spoken many words and are available to help you. Coaches are good with words too. For another words assistance, you could also consult an emotional wheel. Or for a few more pointers to get specific on physical sensations, you could use a diagram below. Like words with hot, pounding, open, dull, fluttery, intense, breathless, fluid, and so on and so on. Treat this step of naming as an experiment in itself. Try out a label and see if it fits. If it's not quite right, eventually you'll notice the dissonance showing up as some physical discomfort in your body. When you feel that, try shifting the label and dialing in the meaning of your experience. When you change the words and shift your meaning, you'll also change your emotional and physical experience of the moment. Linking two brain regions, the primal and the executive. Keep practicing pausing, noticing, and naming, especially through dramatic changes and feeling resistance. When you're shuffling your actions by making some changes, thoughts and emotions will also be unsettled. Making change is typically disorienting and uncomfortable. Thoughts and emotions will be frenzied, loud, or turbulent. In those times, practice will be especially challenging. The primal regions of the brains don't like to be unsettled and uncomfortable. Primal brains thrive on certainty and familiarity. Those parts of the brains will generate thought stories that convince against changing and rally for staying the same. Those stories grip on to habitual, familiar behaviors and compete against your plans to change. Noticing and naming is practicing recruiting the executive brain functions. The executive brain can be objective to those stories. It can acknowledge that thoughts, stories, and labels are not always true, right, or the most helpful ways to get you to your goals. For example, if you start a practice of eating slowly at every meal, some thought stories might be, I'm too busy for that, it's weird, other people will think it's weird, it's a stupid idea and it won't work. That's a primal brain's attempt to push back against change. Noticing resistant thought patterns is the first step to being able to tune away from them and ease their resistance to your longer-term plan for change. Call out the brain's thought shenanigans. Reconsider whether you want those thoughts and reconsider the words you're using. For example, you can ask yourself, is this story true? Do I want this story to be true? Example, are these actions really a have to rather than a want to? Does this story define who I am? Does this have to define who I am? Or can I be defined differently right now? Is this story always true? Or is it true just for now until I change it? Worry less about necessarily fixing the thought or feeling. More importantly, just observe. Let it settle without judgment or reaction. Zoom out to the bigger picture and try to understand the reasoning for what's happening. Writing the owner's manual of the brain. The human brain is just amazing. Too amazing for words. These are a couple of the most amazing functions of the human brain. The ability to think thoughts that are separate from direct experience, the ability to pause and deliberately redirect attention to create a different experience. Functions like that of the brain are so amazing and complex. Learning to operate them is a practice of the human's lifetime. As a nutrition practice, maybe someday, if we're lucky, we'll graduate beyond level 1. Maybe. Noticing and naming is practicing studying the functions of the brain. There's 2 main steps to practice. Notice the real direct sensations of the moment and give accurate labels to those sensations. The more clearly and accurately that you can do both of these steps, the more often you can respond with the next action that makes clear sense. All right, guys, time to reflect. Can you notice and name some of your resistance? Name 3 negative thoughts that you get when you try to do something your primal brain doesn't want you to do. How can you use your executive brain to turn those thoughts around? All right, guys, all the best of luck answering those questions. And again, it's time you thrive. Make sure to check back in the app every morning to make sure you're on board for what's coming up next. All the best, guys. I'm out.